Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, do you feel like you're burnt out already, even though it's only January 29th? I've spoken to a lot of people and they're burnt already. And my friend Bianca, we're going to be talking with her today. She is the Swiss Army knife of positivity. She's truly amazing. She's a mother of four, best-selling author, success strategist. She does it all, and I can't wait to talk to Bianca today. And if you stay till the end, we're going to give you 3 things that you can do today to help avoid burnout for the rest of 2025. So, Bianca, welcome to the show. How are you doing this morning?
Thank you so much, Richard. It's an absolute pleasure and honor to be here with you, especially at this time of year. It's bleak, it's nasty outside. So I'm glad that we're here talking about burnout and how we can make sure that this year is a gentle one, filled with grace.
I love it. And I got to give a big shout out to Joseph. And what if it wasn't for Joseph, we would not be here today together. So big shout out. Thank you so much, Joseph. I appreciate you and I love you, brother. So my first question right off the get is, what is your definition of resiliency, especially for being from on the other side of the pond? You've had to deal with a lot of stuff over the last 10, 20 years. Mm-hmm. So what is your definition of resiliency?
I embrace adversity as a route to resilience. And I think resilience obviously is a superpower, and for everyone to lean into life with this mindset of adversity builds resilience is a way to step into a place of empowerment consistently. So let me think about an actual definition of resilience. It's about showing up with a mindset that is, I've got this, and an inner strength, an inner knowing that whatever slides into me, whatever happens, I am strong, I am capable, I am enough, and I can manage this. So resilience is essential. It's essential, and it's a gift, and it's a muscle, and we can grow resilience. And it's up to us to really lean into life with the approach that we will build resilience, because with resilience comes success.
And, I have a lot of friends from the UK, and of course we had to deal with, losing the Princess Di. Then they also had to deal with Brexit and everything that's going on over there. So sometimes becoming resilient is either you adapt or you get ran over. And I think you're a perfect example of how to adapt and overcome, even when you don't want to adapt and overcome.
Exactly. It's very, very easy. It's very easy to just want to put the duvet over your head and go, it's too much. It's too much. But actually, the people who succeed are the ones that actually flick the duvet off, jump out of bed and go, okay, that's happened, but I'm still here, I'm still standing, and I've still got a contribution that I want to make, and therefore I will. And it all comes back to that mindset, like you say, of not being a victim. And so resisting victimhood is a real power and a way to start enjoying life, actually.
And, and I love that you talk about victimhood, because at the end of every show, I say we all have a choice when we wake up in the morning. We could be a victim of our past, or we could be the victor of our present and our future. And
I love that.
And I think it's so important, resiliency, to realize it's my choice. Exactly. I can wake up if my wife is not in a great mood, or whatever's going on. I can choose not to be in a bad mood. Exactly. I can say, honey, I love you. You're having a bad day, but I'm going to have a good day.
Absolutely. This conversation, it stirs a memory for me. 20 years ago, I was in a car crash, and I got concussion, and it destroyed my inner ear. So I had labyrinthitis, which just meant I was really wobbly and I lost my balance, and it was really disorientating. And I had all sorts of, I mean, I was fine apart from, that weird, I don't feel myself. So I spent a year in and out of seeing neurologists and getting help and advice for this strange condition, because it was quite literally destabilizing, and I felt like I couldn't work and I wasn't myself, and it was just very alien. And eventually I met this neurologist who said to me that it was permanently damaged, but it was absolutely possible to relearn to balance with only one inner ear functioning. And he said to me that there are some people with the condition that I had who would just give up and go, I can't balance, it's uncomfortable being out and about walking, I just want to stay at home, I want to put dark glasses on, I want to shut the curtains, and I just don't want to try. And he said there were other people with my condition who were athletes, skiers, who were window cleaners, who were going up skyscrapers and cleaning windows because they had learned to recalibrate their brain, they'd learned to balance. And I love that. And I thought that was just such a moment for me, an epiphany of, okay, the power is all mine. I can relearn to live with this condition, and I did. And he gave me all sorts of tips, and I learned to balance, and that was an example of resilience.
And I love that. Like one of my friends, one of my students actually, he's deaf, he's blind, he's a podcaster, he owns 2 businesses, and he's an ultra marathon runner.
Wow, there you go. that
so for me,
mastered.
So for me, I lost 60% of my vision, but if he can do it with no vision,
wow,
I can do it with 60% vision. So I think a lot of it is just the way you think about things. Exactly. So let's talk about, how did you get into this crazy world of being known as the burnout queen?
Well, not by design, I can tell you that much. I have had a wonderful career, a wonderfully full life, and I've had a decade as an entrepreneur. I've had a decade in corporate life. I have had been blessed with 4 children, and throughout the process of me growing up and growing into life and expanding into life, I used to burn out consistently and cyclically. And the more I chased my ambitions and leaned into having this fizzy, vibrant, rich and full life, the more I kept crashing and burning. And I didn't want to crash. I didn't want to be debilitated. And when I would have a burnout crash, I would literally be, the worst example was hospitalized with total immune collapse. So just a skinny mini with tonsillitis, bronchiolitis, conjunctivitis, every itis. And I was told I was just in total immune collapse because I was in a constant stress state, but I couldn't see it at the time. So this would happen again and again and again. I wouldn't get a common cold. I would get flu that would turn into pneumonia. I'd be in bed for a month, absolutely slammed, floored, and just inert with burnout again and again and again. And every time I'd recover and get back on the life treadmill and keep going again and keep rushing into my dreams and my plans and having this sort of energy and gusto, but not taking any lessons from what was actually happening and why I was burning out. Until eventually I started to really pay attention, because I realized it was debilitating my ability to work, to mother, to be a friend, and it was harming my life. So I started experimenting with how could I do all the stuff I wanted to do, but not fall over. So I started playing with physical, mental, emotional ways to self-manage. And by 2015, after really 15 or so years of really catastrophically burning out, but achieving magnificent dreams, I finally cracked the code of how to self-manage and how to continue to chase my ambition, to achieve my goals without hitting the burnout wall. And then I started bottling that up and then teaching others, this is how I do it. And then that became a book, it became a program, and it's now my business. So I really fell into it, and now I study it and I pay it forward, because I so believe it's possible for everybody to soar at work when we take that responsibility for ourselves to make sure that we don't burn out.
And one thing that I believe that like for me this year, I plan on only working 180 days. I
Love it.
plan on being on vacation, going on a couple cruises. I plan on spending more time with my family so I don't burn out. But I see a lot of people, they're like, and I love Gary Vee. Without Gary Vee, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be here. But that hustle and grind mentality, I believe that you can't pour from an empty cup. And if your cup is always empty, you're not able to pour into anybody else. So talk about the importance of self-care.
Yeah, well, and you're absolutely right that it all starts from within. And I read a statistic last week that is 40% of the British workforce are fearing burnout, and as a consequence of fearing burnout, they're thinking of changing jobs. And a lot of what I teach is, don't assume the grass is greener and that just changing company or changing job is going to make your work world look different. It's up to you to self-manage in such a way that you are thriving. So the self-care aspect is 100% it. You have got to know and understand how you thrive, but only you can actually identify that. So the strategies that I write about in my new book, Big Impact Without Burnout, is all about building the inner foundations that enable you to then go out and have your most magnificent impact. And there are 4 core strategies that I talk about. The first one being energy, the second one being mindset, talking about resilience, the third one being time, and then the fourth one being about purpose and intentionality. And I'll just talk briefly about those 4 aspects of self, because I firmly believe if we don't own and master those 4 different areas, we cannot thrive, and we will run the risk of tripping into burnout. So the first one is around energy and energy management. I mean, I run a coaching practice, and one of the top complaints that I get from clients is, I just don't have the energy. I wish I had more energy. But what I teach is, we have to learn and remember that we have the power to produce and create all the energy that we need. And it's up to us to understand when we're in environments or situations or with people or doing work that depletes our energy, and to just become really cognizant of that. Because the energetic expansion, the energetic depletion, it's all within our control. Now, yes, of course, there are always going to be aspects of life that are a bit, I really wish I to do my tax return, that might drain a bit of energy. But if we are focusing our energy in such a way where we respect it and we honor it by ensuring our lives are rich in the energizing stuff, then we're going to have enough energy to do what we want to do. But that takes the awareness of not harming ourselves with too much fake energy, with tuning in to when it is that we feel a dip and we need to restore. There's all sorts of awareness that's required around energy management. And I'm really passionate about that being a very important key to unlocking everything else. So we start with energy, work out how to manage energy. Then mindset. It really comes back to what you've opened the show with today. So it's around that resilience, but it's around having this positivity, veering away from victimhood, and having that beautifully curious growth mindset where you're not thwarted by fear and playing small in the world, but instead you're leaning in with curiosity and love, and just enjoying the opportunities and experiences that arise and that come your way. It's about leaning into triggers. This is something that a lot of people shy away from, the triggers, but actually I say lean in, lean in. When you look at that trigger and stare it squarely in the eyes, quite often there's something that needs to shift inside you. Quite often it's revealing that there's a moment for emotional growth. So I really invite that sort of overall mindset shift. So that's strategy number 2. So we do energy, we do mindset. Then we come into time. And again, this is one of the biggest complaints of my coaching clients. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. And I will always draw the reference of what happens when you fall in love. When you fall in love and you want to be with that person that you are so enchanted with and impassioned by, suddenly you find all the time in the world. And whether it's a person you're in love with or a project you're in love with, you find time, and time expands magnificently. So if we can learn to orient our lives in such a way that we are giving our energy, our focus, and our attention in such a way that time is expanding, it doesn't become a battle. It just becomes something that flows more gently, and time does expand when you direct it the right way. And that comes down to subjective versus objective attention. And it's something, that we can manage beautifully. And then the final strategy is around purpose and intentionality. And too many of us today in this dopamine addicted world of constant stimulation and overwhelm are operating very reactively. And in reactivity is passivity. And what happens is then we start drifting downstream. And if you're drifting downstream, life's happening to you. So we have to bring back that intentionality, that definiteness of purpose, as Napoleon Hill would call it. And when we step into that place of absolute focus and intentionality and feel purposeful in every day, when we flick the duvet off us and we skip out of bed and that we've got intention, then life becomes all the more magnificent and rewarding and impactful. And with purpose, it doesn't have to be about that huge glossy ideal of eliminating child hunger in the world. It doesn't have to be huge. It just has to be, what is it in our soulful self that wants to just burst forth and make a difference in the world? And you can do that if it's just showing up in the office and making sure that you want to bring positive energy to the day. That can be your purpose. It's up to us to define it. So they're my 4 core areas of how we can self-manage. A very long-winded way of answering your question around self-care. They're the 4 core pillars of how we go within to make sure that we can then go out and have our biggest impact.
All right, guys, we got to go. It's been a great show. Thank you so much. Actually, I really want to dig a little bit deeper into the 4. So, and I wrote some stuff down. Now, energy. I find if I take time to work out, if I take time to maybe go to bed an hour earlier, to recover, to, not watch TV before I go to bed, blue lights and stuff like that. Yeah. I find I'm up usually earlier than my alarm because my energy has been replete because I'm working out and I'm also recovering. Yeah. So talk about how motion, keeping your body in motion, but also recovery, how that can help your energy levels.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's that beautiful blend between stress and rest. So I don't know if you've heard of the stress productivity curve. Have you ever heard? Yep. Yeah. Okay. So the Yerkes and Dodson stress productivity curve, where we know that a bit of healthy stress at the top of that curve is really invigorating. It's how we get to peak performance when we're in that sort of stimulated peak stress state. That's good. So it's good to sort of spend time rushing with that healthy stress, like you're about to go on a roller coaster or do a big keynote, or however you get that little tingle of stress. It's good. It's good to have moments of that. So when you're doing exercise, you get that little rush of healthy stress. When you're doing work to a deadline, you get that rush of healthy stress. That's great. What isn't great is if it's a prolonged moment where you're up in that stress state for too long. That's when we start careering down the wrong side of that beautiful graph and go into burnout, which can lead into disease in all sorts of disease equals disease in all sorts of horrible ways. So that blend of getting to a place of stress and rest is how we get into growth. That's the equation that we need to remember. Stress plus rest equals growth. So just like when you're in the gym and you work out your muscles, they need to rest to then rejuvenate. And so it is with ourselves. And I love this story. Roger Bannister, before he broke the world record of the 1 minute mile, the 2 weeks before that, he was not training on the track. He wasn't visualizing. He wasn't doing the sort of focused prep that you would assume he'd be doing, running around the track every. Are you back? Am I back?
Yep.
So he was actually having a hiking holiday in the Scottish Highlands with some friends, totally chilling. And then he came back straight into his restored self state and then broke the world record because he knew the beautiful delicacy around stress, then rest equals growth. And so when we think about ourselves, tuning into our natural rhythms and understanding when we need to rejuvenate is absolutely critical. And this is where I worry that in today's modern societal patterns, we've got this realm of freneticism, which is harming us because we keep pushing on through. We push on beyond our natural cycles, but also our natural sensitivity to what our bodies are telling us. And that's a really big flaw. And it's become so socially acceptable to keep pushing on. And there are just so many examples of if you have flu and you're poorly, traditionally you would cuddle up in bed and have some chicken soup or some hot lemon and ginger. But nowadays we'll take a medication that isn't just vitamin C and isn't just paracetamol, but it's packed full of caffeine and phenylalanine and all the additional stimulants to just push on. And so we're just putting this physical toll on our bodies, which is harmful and draining. But not only that, we're doing the physical harm, the mental harm, and sometimes the emotional harm. And this is where we need to be very aware of those three different aspects, because physically our bodies will tell us when they're tired. They absolutely will. Mentally, that cognitive overload of more, the never-ending to-do list, that work is always going to carry on. And goodness me, the retirement rates get older and older every single year, don't they? We're all going to be working longer. The task list is never going to disappear. So it's up to us to work out, how do we mentally rejuvenate? So what can we do to make sure that we rest our brains? Can we take time out in the middle of the day and just meditate and just close our eyes and do some deep breathing for 10 minutes? That's certainly what I do. I did that at midday today. I just was like, okay, I need time out. I could feel myself getting overwhelmed. So listening to our bodies, managing the physical side of overwhelm, the mental side, and then the emotional is also an aspect where I think too often we just suppress. We just ignore what's happening and creating stress in us. And if we're not paying attention to it, it's harming our entire physiology on so many different levels. And it's up to us to try and address what is that emotional unrest and give ourselves the grace and the space to actually respect there's something that really hurts or is painful or is hard, and just look at it, examine it, understand how it's showing up, how it's harming us, and just create space to look at that. So 3 very important aspects to consider how we rejuvenate: physically, mentally, and emotionally. And it's going to be different for each and every one of us. We have to remember our unique bio-individuality. What stresses you might not stress me. What soothes me might not soothe you. We're all so unique, and we need to learn what it is that gives us that opportunity to feel energized.
And don't you think that, in your professional opinion, I'm not a professional at all, but
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
uh, but I believe that gratitude. I'm a big gratitude guy. Like my people know that when I before I go to bed every night, I reach over to my wife, I hold her and I pray for her.
Mm.
And then I think of three things that happened during the day that I'm grateful for.
I
And
love that.
this interview is going to be one of them. And most of the time, I'm grateful that my kids are warm and safe. I'm
I love
grateful that my family is healthy.
beautiful.
And then when I wake up in the morning, if I could see something because I lost 60% of my vision, if I could see something, I say, "Thank you, Lord.
Oh,
Today's going to be an amazing day. I
bless
don't
you.
know what you have planned for me, but I accept whatever's coming my way. But today's going to be an awesome day." So
Beautiful.
before my feet hit the floor, I'm already in gratitude and my energy level automatically goes up. So talk
Beautiful.
about gratitude and energy.
Absolutely. Well, it's spot on. And again, I'm so privileged to be here with you. Kindred spirits. I say thank you so very, very much. And I want to thank you for having me on this show. And gratitude is absolutely just one of the most magical aspects of life. And like you, before I go to sleep, because I've obviously been blessed with 4 children, I make sure that my last thought is my favorite interaction with each one of the children that day. And that's my happy little the last thoughts before I go to sleep. But I'm also a very big journaler. And so I'll always sign my journal every night with 3 thank yous to the Lord, to the angels, to the universe, to the higher intelligence, to whoever it is. I say thank you. And I do that in my journal. Now, the power of gratitude is so intertwined with kindness because that's also a beautiful energy. And I have noticed so many times when I'm coaching clients through struggles at work or struggles in relationships, divorce, or the mental swirls that can come up of I'm stuck in this story of pain, of pain, of pain. The minute I invite them to step into a place of do something kind for someone else, and this is slightly veering away from gratitude, but step into this place of kindness, think about someone else, think about someone that you can impact positively. The minute someone starts shifting into that place of giving, then they start to settle in themselves. The mental swirl stops and they just enter more of a vibrational frequency, a positive, energetic frequency of love, and depression, anxiety. It all just melts away. So there's such a power in that overall swell of loving kindness. And that's very similar to gratitude. And of course, once they're in that place of having delivered something kind, whether it's as simple as sending a heart emoji to someone, or it's writing a card, or it's buying a gift, or whatever it might be, getting into that place of then feeling the love from the giving is very similar to that moment of gratitude and gratefully receiving. So I think they're very, very similar. And too often we miss out on the beautiful things that we can be grateful for that are right in front of our very eyes. And there's so much to be said about the very ordinary that is actually majestic, and it's right in front of us. And when we slow ourselves down to pay attention to what is right in front of us, there is an abundance of stuff to be grateful for, whether it's the beauty of the plant leaf I can see right here to my left, or the little bird hopping around outside, or your kid putting their hand up to hold your hand. So much to be grateful for in these sweet moments that are right in front of us. And I encourage everyone to just be more aware of the beauty and the joy in the very, very ordinary, because there's just so much to be grateful for.
Well, see, now that's going to go into number two, which is mindset,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm a big Tony Robbins guy. I'm a big Ed Milet guy, and I'm also a big Napoleon Hill, and I'm also a big proponent of using our reticular activating system in our brain
Mm-hmm.
to look for happiness or sadness. And I know it was, I don't remember who the quote was from, but the gentleman from that Napoleon Hill learned from, Mr. Carnegie,
Oh yeah.
said your obsessions become your possessions. So whatever you look for, your mind's going to find.
Yeah.
And I think that's all part of the mindset. It's all
Yeah.
part of our belief system. If I think I'm going to be sad, if I think I'm going to be sick, guess what? I'm
Yeah.
probably going to be sick and I'm probably going to be sad. So
Ab-
let's talk about your second tenet of mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And it all starts with beliefs, exactly as you beautifully just described. And I have one of my youngest, my teenage son. He's nearly 16 years old and he still struggles to write. And for so many years, I have said to him, Bo, if you believe you can or you can't, you're right. So if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you are choosing that belief. So if you want to believe that you can't write, then that's your choice. But I'm going to believe that you can write. And I'm encouraging him to try and believe that he can write. Because if he can just solidify and own that belief, then of course he's going to be able to write, exactly like you've just described. So understanding our belief systems and how they're impacting how we show up is absolutely fundamental to success. And too often we're clouded with this unconsciousness where we're not aware of how beliefs might be detrimentally impacting our ability to show up in the world. And if we can try and deconstruct belief systems that are harming our ability to have positive impact and flip them, then of course life is going to become a lot more magnificent. But we have to become aware of the fact that we've actually got a limiting belief that's inhibiting us in the first place. So this comes back down to going, okay, well, I want my life to look like this, but actually it looks like this. And then examining what are the beliefs that are floating around in the way that are just stopping you and creating that gap, and then start unpacking them one by one. Because once we get into that belief that we can create what we so desire, we do. I mean, we do. And you're clearly somebody that understands and recognizes that the thoughts become matter. And the more we can own the positivity of belief and certainty within our very energetic systems, at depths of our minds and souls, believe that we're going to achieve, then we will, and we do.
Yeah, and I definitely believe in manifestation. That's
Yeah.
something that faith and manifestation together, I think it's an unbeatable combination. Like just recently, we went on the cruise to the Bahamas, and a lot of people would say, well, that's not a big deal. A lot of people go on cruises. But for me, on my vision board, for the last 10 years, I've had Atlantis on my
Yeah.
vision board. And what's really amazing is that my wife is deathly afraid of water.
Wow.
And she
Wow.
and she came to me and said, "You know what? Let's go to Atlantis. Let's go to the Bahamas. I just booked the cruise." And I was shocked. And
Wow.
she said, because I see it on their vision board and you're always talking about it. So now
Oh,
let's make it happen. So I believe that, whatever you constantly is in front of your mind, whether it's
absolutely.
the screensaver on your phone, whether it's your vision board, I think
Yeah.
whatever you constantly have in front of you
Yeah.
is what your mind's going to look for more of, right?
100%. And I am such a fan of that visualization. And when there is something that really is a big dream, and when you bring it front and center on a vision board, fantastic. Do that in the physical world, do that. But when you are meditating or getting yourself into a sort of alpha brainwave state as well before you go to sleep, or if you're in a meditation practice, when you go down into that very depth of your sort of closer to your subconscious, and then you visualize as well, I really believe that ingrains even more deeply inside you. And I 100% believe in manifesting this way. I've done that since I was 12 years old. And I have literally manifested 4 children, every career, every business, the love of my life. Now, in fact, I'll tell you the story, the love of my life. I'm engaged, just fallen in love with this, or not just, 5 years into, thank you, a relationship with my absolute soulmate. And I had written many years ago, I was on a plane coming back from a meditation retreat. So I was feeling very zen. And I was just writing in my journal 2 A4 pages of what my dream relationship would look like. And I described how I would feel in that relationship, how it would be to be together, the things we would do together, what it would look like, how I would make him feel, how he would make me feel, all the different dimensions of the relationship with beautiful technicolor, literary detail in my journal. 1 year later, almost to the day, I met this man, and then our relationship evolved and bloomed. And for our 3-year anniversary, I actually photocopied that journal, those 2 pages in the journal, and I gave them to him and gifted him and said, "You are my dream," quite literally, because this is us, this is it. And I'd written it a year before we even met. And if that isn't a beautiful example of how thoughts become things, then I don't know what is. But literally, I believed it would happen. I believed.
And I can really feel that, because tomorrow is my wedding anniversary. Yesterday, it was 39 years ago that I met my bride. And
wow, happy anniversary and congratulations.
And the funny thing is I when I talk to a lot of people and I coach a lot of people, and I ask them, if they're single, what kind of relationship do you want? They always seem to tell me the things that they don't want.
Okay.
And that's when I'm like, all right, let's flip the script.
Yeah, exactly.
Write down the things that you do want.
Perfect.
Because if you're writing down things you don't want, that's what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and it's sad that there's such a tendency to actually default to, oh no, I don't want that. I don't want that. But actually, paint the picture of what you do want and what you do desire, and then embellish it with all the detail around how you want it to feel, smell, what the touches are like, all of it. And then it grows and it happens.
Yes. The only reason I'm excited about that is because a couple years ago, I had a friend. He was doing well financially, and he says, "I want a Lambo." And I'm like, "Okay, why don't you own a Lambo?" He's like, "I don't know." He can afford it. He's like, "I don't know." So we went the next day, test drove a Lambo. He actually got to smell the leather, got to touch it, got to drive it, got to smell the gasoline.
Amazing.
He came by the next week with a new Lambo.
No.
Because now he was emotionally involved in it. Like for me, on my phone, you guys can't see it, but I have a brand new Corvette that I'm looking at. But every time I open my phone, I'm going to see it. And when I go to the dealership, I'm going to drive it, test drive it, and I'm going to smell it, and I'm going to touch it. And this way, it becomes it's no longer just a dream. It becomes a manifestation. So how important it is, like for me, I want to own a beach house. So when we went to the Bahamas, I looked at some houses, and I actually touched some houses, smelled the paint, sat outside and breathed the sea air in, and got the sun on my face. So it's there. So how important is it to get emotionally involved in your goals and your dreams?
Well, exactly. I mean, you're describing that precisely. I talk about creating goals with soul. That's what we're doing. It's goals with soul. And when you feel it in every single sensory way possible and connect it into a very big why, that's the other added dimension. It's not just, I want to run a marathon as a goal. It's like, why. And when you sort of bake that into, well, the why is so I can be a better mother for my children because I'm fitter and stronger or whatever, but go beneath, why do you want that? Why do you want that? Why do you want that? So it just starts to resonate on more levels emotionally, and the goal has more soul. And that's so important, because as we connect to a goal, not just as a paper, a written sentence and a KPI, but actually we embellish it with how it's going to feel, what the experience will be like, and then connect it back into the why, we're so much more likely to achieve it.
I love it. So let's go to the third tenet, which is time. In order to reach your goals, to reach your dreams, you have to use your 1,440 minutes every day to the most effective way. And it's not working all the time, but like Napoleon Hill wrote, it's think and grow rich. It's not work and grow rich, hustle and grow rich.
Yeah.
And like I say, anybody from, say, in here in America, The Rock is like one of the biggest stars. And he even says, I have 1,440 minutes. And so does the janitor. It all depends on what we do with those 1,440 minutes. So let's talk about time. Because time is the one thing, it's finite. That's the one thing we can't get back is time. So talk about your third minute time.
Well, I talk about 4,000 weeks. That's apparently the average lifespan. So it's the 4,000 weeks. That's what we have. And you're right, it's finite. So it's how we spend that time most meaningfully. And the Greeks had two words for time, which I love to refer to, because we don't have a beautiful modern day English translation for this, but they had chronos and kairos. And the chronos time is that chronological time, the tick, 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 tick. Imagine the sundial and the shadows going around. That's the chronological time that we know. It's constantly progressing. Think of the factory worker watching the clock tick, tick, tick. And then there's kairos time. And that is the best translation is God's time. And it's the time that's more nebulous and flowy when you get into that state where you're absorbed in such a way that time expands and time almost is irrelevant. And it's like that, the sort of the flow state. But if we spend more of our time in that kairos time, in God's time, then time itself becomes less of a tick, 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 tick thing. We've got to chase. And it's not productivity related. It's soulfully related. Because what we're doing is we're spending our time in such a way where we're working with it, we're flowing with time. And that's the biggest difference, I think, that we can make in our lives today. Stop watching it tick, 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 and look at how we can fill it and how we can compartmentalize our lives into time blocks of this, that, and the other. Instead, let's think, how can we spend more of our time as God's time, in that flowy state where we're doing meaningful stuff that helps us expand and feel that we're having a soulful, positive contribution. And I don't mean that we have to spend our lives like the sort of impassioned professor with sort of wild hair and just absorbed in a crazy, an impassioned project. But it's about making sure that we distinguish the time between subjective and objective time, because that how we focus our attention subjectively or objectively is what's going to make the difference of us feeling at the end of our 4,000 weeks, that was a life well spent. So the difference between the subjective time and the objective time is when it's subjective, we're choosing it. We are directing our focus, our attention, our energy into time in such a way that is aligned with our values, with our goals, with what we attribute life with meaning through. When we are almost reacting to objective attention, time is being stolen away from us. And that's when we become passive, we become reactive, and time starts to disappear because actually other people are stealing it. And that can be anything as the sort of, the scourge of today, the social media drain. of just watching content that doesn't necessarily align with our values or foster our growth in the right ways. But also it can be sitting in meetings where we actually don't need to be there, and it doesn't contribute to our furthermost goals and intentions. So we have to become really aware of how we're investing our attention. Is it subjective or is it objective? And that's one of the most transformational ways we can create a different relationship with time.
And, even like Ed Milet said, a lot of people, they work 5 days a week, but a lot of entrepreneurs or business owners, we try to get 12 days of work in 7 days. Mm-hmm. But if we're really focused, like he says, he works from 6 a.m. to 12 o'clock. That's 1 day. Then he works from 12 to 6. That's 2 days. Then he works from 6 to 12. That's 3 days. So he's actually getting 3 days of work into 1 day. So he's actually expanding time because he's putting focus for that 6 hours. So he can work 2 days a week, but he already put in 6 days of work in 2 days. So, So but let's talk about going to the fourth part, and I think this is the most important, is living with intention. Like we're talking now, I'm not thinking about what I have to do later. I'm not thinking about dinner. I'm not thinking about anything but talking with Bianca right now. Yeah. And then when I'm doing something else, I'm in the moment. I'm doing that one thing. Beautiful. I'm living with intention. And like for me, people know me, I say no a lot.
Good, because that's a power.
Like for me, if it's not God, family, friends, and business, I'm probably going to say no because I want to live with intention.
Yeah.
So talk about how important it is every day you wake up to make sure you're living intentionally. How important is that?
It is so important. It is so important. There's an exercise I do with clients when I'm doing real workshops where I say, okay, dream your dream of how you want your life to look in 25 years and get that vision, heart and soul, down on paper. I ask them to write for 5 minutes. Where do they want to be? Who do they want to be? What are they going to be doing? What's that 25-year vision for their lives? Then I ask them to spend 5 minutes writing, what are they doing in the next 3 months? What do they hope that they're going to achieve in the next 3 months? And then generally what you find is that the 25-year vision is this glossy, glorious goal of a beach house or running a surf business in Bali or something wildly inspired and gorgeous and heart-tingly to the person. Then when I ask them about the next 3 months, it generally is some work tasks. It's some very sort of pragmatic sort of tick, tick, tick stuff off a task list. Then I tell them 3 months is 1% of 25 years. So the disparity between that beautiful glossy vision over there and this list that you've just put here, it means that you're wasting time because you're not doing anything towards running that surf shack in Bali if you're just doing your weekly meetings and without the intention of this all being correlated. And that's the biggest gap. I think people feel, well, I'm just going to do the do and make some money and do the do and make some money. In the back of their minds, they might be thinking, oh, well, because one day I'll end up on a surf shack. But not everyone is conscious enough to do what you do and have it on a vision board and say, well, I'm going to have that holiday in the Bahamas. And that's where they actually misstep, because they can easily be distracted and veer off course and just lose the focus. And, we know the difference of marginal gains. 1% quickly becomes 2%, 3%, you accelerate. So we shouldn't be wasting that 1%. So having that focus and intentionality and clarity of what it is that we want to achieve impacts everything. It's what we do, it's how we behave, it's how we think. And then obviously that influences what we ultimately manifest. We have to stay truly aligned in all of this with what our values are. And I'm sure you teach this to your clients, that we are never, ever going to be fully fulfilled and feeling fulfilled and at peace if we are not honoring our values. So in all of this visioning and planning and intentionality, we have to prioritize making sure that every day we show up in honor of our values. Because if there's dissonance and we're having to compromise any part of ourselves in our daily do, then that is creating internal stress. And compromise is not good. And I'm not talking about the loving compromise of, all right, I'll get your slippers for you or whatever. That's fine. Compromise is good when it's loving. But when we are doing work that we know at a soul level isn't right, or we're working in a team where we know that actually we don't agree with their cultural values, or we're in a marriage where we know it's run its course, but we're just trying to suppress that for the sake of the children, or we're just compromising some aspect of our true selves in some way, that is going to lead to the disharmony within and really put us at a risk of burnout. So when we think about intentionality and being purposeful, it's so much about showing up in honor of our values and making choices that honor our values, because that's where peace lies.
Okay, so now this is a teaching podcast. My perfect avatar is a 45-year-old male, father of 3, veteran, brand new business owner. And most brand new business owners are pretty much burnt out within the first year of opening a brand new business. So what would be your top 3 pieces of advice for somebody that's starting to feel that burnout? What would be your top 3 pieces of advice?
Okay. Well, I come at burnout, as you know, from the holistic perspective. So it's the body, mind, and the soul, not just the task list. But let's start with the task list, because as an entrepreneur, the task list never stops. Sure. And there are a million different directions we can go in. And every day I look at the task list and I go, oh. So it's up to us to be really clear on what is going to make the biggest difference most, and to do that first. So that intentionality of every day, starting every day with what is the most important thing, the next right thing, is something I write about and I blog about. I call it the next right thing. Sit down at the start of the day and be very focused on what is the next right thing. And that is going to have the biggest impact in your business. So what's the next right thing to do right now? That really starts to give us that sense of control over the volume of different decisions that we can make in any one day. So what is the next right thing? Approach work that way. From a thriving perspective of ourselves as a whole, I really invite you to lean into wherever the triggers are bubbling up emotionally right now in your life, because lean into those triggers, because they will be draining you. They will be sucking you dry. They will be giving you insomnia in the middle of the night. They'll be exhausting your energy reserves unnecessarily. So lean into the triggers and try and examine them and see what it is that needs to change, whether it's a relationship or the business itself or a work stream. To triggers, I really, really invite you to look there. And too often we're just like, oh, I'm triggered. I need to try and, soothe myself. No, look at it, examine it and manage it. That's definitely my advice there. And then the final piece of advice is I really invite you to try and tune back into intuition. And I feel we've really detached too many people. No, I don't want to generalize, but I feel too many people have just shifted all focus up into our heads, and our bodies are telling us actually what we need. And if we can just tune back into what our bodies are guiding us to do, then actually we're going to find a lot of answers just there within our bodies. And I mean this from a sort of physical perspective of, oh, I'm hungry. What does that hunger actually represent? Is there a nutritional mineral deficiency, or am I actually low on glucose levels right now? Are they plummeting, or am I actually bored? So when you stand in front of the fridge, stand there and just think for a minute, just tune into your intuition, go, what am I actually hungry for right now? And do I want that chocolate biscuit, or do I want an apple? Just get intuitive. Try and trust those little rumblings inside us, because physically they'll be telling us stuff. Mentally, they'll be guiding us to, the vibe. I'm vibing with you right now. I love your energy. It's great. I love that. I'm grateful for that. When we're in situations where we're not vibing in the right way, we have to trust that. And actually, when you ask some of the most successful leaders in business ever, those pivotal decisions that they've made or what they're most proud of, quite often it comes back to an intuitive gut feeling, a decision that was made based on intuition. So I really invite that sort of physical intuition, the mental intuition, and then emotionally just trusting the soulful self. That's my advice.
So then how do we get into your ecosystem? How do we find your blog? How do we find your book? And if we want to get coached by you, how do we do that?
Bless you. Thank you. Well, I'm very excited about my new book, which is on pre-sale now. And I've got all sorts of offers for incentivizing pre-sales, whether you buy 1, 3, or want me to come and do a keynote in your organization. biancabest.com is my website, and all the details there are around how I'm working with businesses to consult around burnout. So my business is the Burnout Business, and I'm really helping leaders encourage their workforce to take that self-accountability for how they can thrive in graceful productivity. I'm coaching one-to-one. It's my passion, just to ensure as many people as possible thrive and rediscover that joy of work and that sense of self. And yeah, I'm available for speaking, all sorts. I care very passionately about creating a working world that's filled with more graceful productivity. And I believe the more of us that step into success with grace, the more harmony the world will feel, and the more fulfilled and happy we will all be. So I would love anyone watching that's enjoyed our conversation to please pre-buy my book. It will be out on March the 11th. And I'm coming to the States, and we'll be doing all sorts of fun tours in early March. So I would love to connect and chat with anyone who's interested in learning more about how to have big impact without burnout.
I love it. And guys, make sure you check her out on Instagram. Her Instagram is fire. Make sure you check her out on LinkedIn and Facebook. Bianca Best. So make sure you check her out on all the social platforms. Joseph, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much for putting us together. And guys, I didn't mention this earlier, but March 1st, I'm actually throwing my own. It's called the Business Battle Plan, where me and my coach Joe Nicasio are going to sit down for 3 or 4 hours and teach you how to start a business in 90 days, from thought process to profit in 90 days. And that's coming out March 1st. So the businessbattleplan.net, check it out. And Bianca, I just want to say thank you. I'm so humbled and grateful that we finally got a chance to hang out today.
Bless you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's been absolutely wonderful. You're wonderful. Thank you.
I love it. And guys, remember, as I mentioned, I'm a big Joel Osteen guy. I'm a man of faith. And I believe that every morning when we wake up, we have a choice. We can be a victim of our past or a victor of our present and our future. And if you guys show up every week, week after week, so you guys are the victors. I love you guys and I appreciate you guys. And remember, vertical momentum, the only way to go is up. I love you guys. Take care of yourselves. I love you guys. Have a great week. Enjoy the beautiful weather.